All right, so welcome to another deep dive. And today we're really going to get into something I think pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at the Quran
Okay.
and specifically, its perspective on justice and fairness.
Interesting.
And we'll be comparing this with the idea of, nationalism,
Okay.
which is something, we hear a lot about these days.
For sure. Yeah.
Everywhere, it seems. And the reason I think this is so interesting is, it pushes us to think beyond,
Yeah.
just our immediate surroundings or like our own country.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes us consider our responsibilities on a global scale.
Right.
It's not just about loving our country. It's about understanding what we owe to, well, humanity as a whole.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating here is how the Quran really kind of challenges us.
Oh, yeah.
It challenges the idea of borders as like the defining factor
Mm-hmm.
in our moral obligations. So while nationalism often emphasizes, allegiance to a specific nation, the Quran suggests that, well, our responsibilities extend much further.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you consider that, well, this source actually uses this, term, this idea of universal brotherhood.
Right.
And it emphasizes that all humans are descended from the same ancestors,
Right.
which, I mean, scientifically speaking.
Hey, we are.
You're right.
Yeah.
But it frames this brotherhood as, like, not just this nice idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's an actual obligation that is rooted in our shared ancestry.
I see, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a direct connection.
Right. It's like, it's not just something we should think about. It's part of who we are.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we kind of like connect this to, the bigger picture, how do we reconcile those two ideas?
Right.
On one hand, you have this like natural love
Yeah.
for your country.
Of course, yeah.
You want what's best for your people, your nation.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, there's this call for universal justice and fairness.
It's a tough question for sure.
Right. And the source actually gives this really,
Yeah.
it's a striking example
Okay.
of this. It talks about how justice should be impartial
Okay.
and apply to everyone, no matter, well, their background.
Right, right.
It even says that you should stand up for what's right, even if it means, going against your own family,
Wow.
which is a really powerful statement.
It is.
Yeah.
That's, not an easy thing to do.
No.
To go against your family.
No, definitely not. And I think this example really, perfectly encapsulates the Quran's perspective on justice. It's about ensuring equal rights and opportunities for everyone, especially for those who are marginalized or oppressed.
Yeah, that's a key point.
Doesn't matter like where they're from
Exactly.
or what their background is.
Yeah.
It's this idea that everyone deserves justice.
Absolutely.
And that actually reminds me of something else
Oh, yeah.
that I found pretty interesting in the source.
Okay.
It talks about how the Quran actually cautions against tribalism,
Interesting.
and the kinds of divisions that nationalism often fosters.
Right, because it can create those kind of us versus them mentalities.
Exactly. It's like, drawing lines in the sand
Mm-hmm.
and separating people based on, often arbitrary differences.
Right, exactly. And instead, the Quran really encourages this idea of learning from differences rather than letting them become, sources of conflict.
Which I think is so important, especially in today's world,
Oh, absolutely.
where it feels like, everything is so divided.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to kind of, fall into those traps of thinking that, we're right and they're wrong sort of thing.
Mm.
But think about it. What if we were to truly embrace this idea of like a global family?
Mm-hmm.
What would our world look like?
It's a great question.
Yeah, and the source actually paints this this really vivid picture
Okay.
of a world without borders, where everyone is treated with dignity.
That's powerful.
It's this idea of, a just society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of,
Where they're from.
where they're from.
Their background.
It's a powerful image.
Yeah.
It speaks to the Quran's vision of unity and justice. Instead of emphasizing our differences, it calls for celebrating those differences.
Right.
And recognizing our shared humanity.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so compelling about, this perspective. It's like the Quran is presenting this alternative to nationalism. It's this global perspective on justice and fairness.
Yeah.
that encompasses,
All of humankind.
all of humankind exactly.
That's a great way to put it. It's about working towards a more equitable world, regardless of nationality. Exactly. And it really, um, you know, it makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
What if we were to really embrace
Yeah.
this vision of unity and justice,
From the Quran.
from the Quran? How would that change our world today?
It's a question worth asking ourselves for sure.
Right. And I mean, more importantly, you know, how can we apply these principles in our own lives?
Yeah, exactly. It's not just about, this big abstract idea. It's about how we live our lives every day.
How we treat each other,
Exactly.
and it's definitely something, something to ponder.
For sure. It's given me a lot to think about.
Yeah, me too. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive. I hope, it's giving you something to think about as well.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's always great to have you here.
All right, see you next time.
See ya.